The stars had always seemed peaceful to Admiral Krevar. In his 40 cycles of service to the Galactic Covenant, he had brought order to 17 worlds. Some surrendered quickly. Others resisted and paid the price. But all eventually bowed to the inevitable truth that the Covenant was stronger, wiser, and more advanced than any primitive species crawling out from their birth worlds. Today would be no different. Krevar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on the viewing screen. Earth, the third planet from a yellow star in an unremarkable spiral arm of the galaxy. His tactical display showed 12 ships in formation around him, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. "Admiral, we are approaching the Mars colony," his second officer reported. The young Zenthari officer's scales gleamed under the bridge lights, still bright with youth and inexperience. Krevar nodded slowly. "Begin the demonstration. Destroy the colony. Leave no survivors." The order was carried out with cold efficiency. Energy beams lanced through space, turning the small human settlement on Mars into vapor and dust. 8,000 lives ended in seconds. It was meant to be a message, a warning that would make the humans realize the futility of resistance. "Send the surrender demand to Earth," Krevar commanded. "Tell them they have 6 of their hours to respond with unconditional capitulation. Their military must stand down. Their governments must submit to Covenant authority. If they refuse, we will begin destroying their cities one by one." The message was transmitted. Now came the waiting. Krevar had studied these humans extensively. The Covenant had been watching Earth for decades, ever since the humans began transmitting radio signals into space. What Krevar saw troubled him, but also convinced him that swift action was necessary. Humans were violent, chaotic, and dangerously unpredictable. They fought wars over resources, over ideas, over invisible lines drawn on maps. They had even created weapons capable of destroying their own world, and they had nearly used them several times. Just 3 months ago, a human colony ship called the Odyssey had crossed into Covenant space. It was a clear violation of the territorial laws that kept the galaxy stable. The Covenant Council had debated for weeks before reaching their decision. Earth must be brought under control before humanity spread further into the stars. "Admiral, we are receiving multiple transmissions from Earth," the communications officer announced. "They are not responding to our surrender demand. Instead, they are broadcasting on all frequencies. Military channels are active worldwide. It appears they are mobilizing their forces." Krevar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Let them. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are slow and fragile. What can they possibly do against us? On Earth, far below, emergency sirens wailed in every major city. In underground bunkers and military command centers, leaders who had been enemies just hours ago now sat together, staring at screens showing the destruction of Mars colony. General Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force looked around the table at faces he had never expected to see working together. Russian generals, Chinese admirals, European commanders, Middle Eastern defense ministers, African coalition leaders, South American strategic officers. They had all arrived within hours, putting aside decades of rivalry and mistrust. "They killed 8,000 people without warning," Marcus said quietly. "No communication, no demands. They just killed them." "The message came after," added General Volkov from the Russian Federation. "They destroyed Mars, then told us to surrender. This tells us everything we need to know about them." "They think we will panic," said Admiral Zhang from China. "They think we will fight among ourselves over who should negotiate surrender terms." Marcus looked at the surveillance footage playing on repeat. Mars colony burning. His daughter had friends there. Had. Past tense now. "They made a mistake," Marcus said. "They think destroying Mars would break us." "They don't understand what they've done." "What do you mean?" asked Commander Okafor from the African Union. Marcus turned to face the assembled leaders. "They've given us something we've never had before. A reason to stop fighting each other." Around the table, understanding dawned on every face. For the first time in human history, every nation faced the same enemy. Every military force had the same mission. Every civilian had the same fear and the same anger. "We need to share everything," said General Volkov. "Every weapon, every technology, every secret we have been keeping from each other. We need to share it all right now." "Agreed," said Admiral Zhang. "China will open all military research facilities to joint access. Everything we have is now everyone's." One by one, each leader made the same commitment. Nuclear codes were shared. Stealth technology was distributed. Experimental weapons were brought out of hidden laboratories. Space agencies combined their resources. Even private corporations were ordered to open their most advanced research to military use. 6 hours passed. Then 12. The surrender deadline came and went with no response from Earth. On the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, Krevar felt a small flutter of uncertainty. The humans should have responded by now. They should have been begging for mercy, negotiating for survival, or at least demanding to know what the Covenant wanted from them. Instead, there was only silence. "Admiral, our sensors are detecting unusual activity across Earth," the tactical officer reported. "Military installations are activating worldwide. We are tracking thousands of launches, satellites, missiles, ships. They appear to be preparing for combat." "Prepare for combat?" Krevar's mandibles clicked in genuine amusement now. What do they think they can accomplish? Very well. If they choose destruction over submission, we will oblige them. Target their largest cities. We will show them the price of defiance, but before he could give the order to fire, alarms blared across the bridge. "Admiral, we have incoming," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple targets approaching at high speed. Hundreds of them. No, thousands." The view screen changed to show space around the fleet. It was filled with human vessels. Most were not military ships at all. Mining vessels, transport ships, cargo haulers, even civilian passenger craft. All of them were accelerating directly toward the Covenant fleet. "They are on collision courses," the tactical officer said, disbelief in their voice. "Admiral, they are not trying to fight us. They are trying to ram us or destroy them," Krevar ordered. "Target the largest vessels first." The Covenant fleet opened fire. Energy beams cut through the void, destroying human ships by the dozens. But for every ship that exploded, 2 more took its place. The humans kept coming, kept accelerating, kept driving forward even as their vessels burned around them. One transport ship, its hull breaching and atmosphere venting into space, still maintained its course toward the Eternal Judgment. Krevar watched as the ship was hit again and again, pieces breaking off, fires consuming the interior. It should have been dead in space. Instead, it struck a Covenant destroyer at full speed. The explosion consumed both vessels. "Casualties reported on the strength of unity," an officer called out. "The human vessel breached their hull. They are venting atmosphere. 300 crew lost." Krevar stared at the tactical display. The humans were dying in droves, but they were not retreating. They were not surrendering. Every ship they lost was replaced by another, then another, a seemingly endless swarm of vessels willing to throw themselves into the fire. "What are they doing?" his second officer asked quietly. "This is madness. They cannot win like this." Krevar did not answer. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. These humans were not acting like any species he had ever conquered. They were not trying to win. They were simply refusing to lose. And somewhere in that distinction lay a truth that Krevar was only beginning to understand. The battle had been raging for 3 days, and Admiral Krevar was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible miscalculation. His fleet still controlled the space around Earth. His ships were still more powerful than anything the humans could field. By every military metric that mattered, the Covenant was winning. Yet somehow victory felt further away than when he had first arrived. The tactical display showed the carnage. Debris from thousands of destroyed human vessels created a cloud around Earth's orbit. Covenant ships moved carefully through the wreckage, their shields deflecting chunks of metal and frozen atmosphere. 3 Covenant vessels had been destroyed entirely. 5 more were damaged badly enough to require withdrawal from the battle line. These losses were unacceptable. The Covenant had not lost 3 ships in the last 10 subjugation campaigns combined. "Status report," Krevar demanded. His tactical officer, a veteran of many battles, looked exhausted. The Covenant did not require much sleep, but 3 days of constant combat was taking its toll. "The humans have launched another wave, Admiral. 2,000 vessels detected approaching from multiple vectors. Analysis suggests most are converted civilian craft. How many vessels do they have left?" Krevar asked. The tactical officer hesitated. "We have destroyed 4,317 human vessels, Admiral. However, our intelligence suggests they began with approximately 8,000 orbital and suborbital capable craft. They still have significant reserves. And they continue to throw them at us like they cost nothing, Krivar muttered. He turned to his communications officer. Have we intercepted any surrender requests? Any negotiations? No, Admiral. However, we have intercepted numerous human communications. Most are brief tactical messages, but some appear to be personal transmissions between crew members. What are they saying? Krivar asked. He had learned long ago that understanding an enemy's communications could reveal their breaking point. The communications officer adjusted the translator. The most common phrases are "for Mars" and "remember the Odyssey." Many also include what appear to be personal messages to family members. Declarations of love, goodbyes, but Admiral, there is something else. Many transmissions end with the same statement, which is, make them pay. Krivar felt his scales ripple with discomfort. They know they are going to die. They are saying goodbye to their families, and they are still attacking. Yes, Admiral. On Earth's surface, General Marcus Chen stood in the command center, watching the battle unfold on a dozen screens. Each one showed a different angle of the orbital conflict. Ships appearing, ships burning, ships dying. The loss of life was staggering, but the will to fight had not diminished at all. General, Squadron 7 has engaged the enemy, a young officer reported. They report successful ramming of a Covenant frigate. All ships lost, Marcus nodded. Squadron 7 had been led by Captain Rodriguez, a good officer and a better friend. They had trained together 30 years ago. Now Rodriguez was gone, along with 400 other people who had volunteered for a mission they knew would be their last. Log their success, Marcus said quietly. Make sure their families know they mattered. Yes, sir. Admiral Zhang entered the command center, her uniform crisp despite the 3 days she had spent coordinating the defense. General Chen, I have news from the engineering teams. They have made progress on the captured technology. Marcus turned quickly. 3 days ago, a damaged Covenant fighter had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Recovery teams had pulled it from the water before it could sink into the deep. Since then, every scientist and engineer available had been studying it, trying to understand how it worked. What kind of progress? Marcus asked. We cannot replicate their power systems or their weapons yet, Zhang admitted, but we have cracked their communication encryption. We are now able to intercept and understand everything they are transmitting to each other. Marcus felt hope kindle in his chest for the first time in days. Show me. Zhang pulled up a screen showing translated Covenant communications. Marcus began reading, and what he saw surprised him. The Covenant soldiers were afraid. Not all of them, but enough that the fear had infected their communications. They talked about the humans like they were monsters. They described the ramming attacks as suicidal insanity. They questioned why the humans would not surrender when defeat was obvious. One transmission caught Marcus's attention. It was from a Covenant ship commander to another. These creatures fight without reason. They know they cannot win, yet they continue to throw themselves at us. I have never seen anything like this. They worship death more than victory. How do we fight an enemy that does not fear dying? Marcus read the message again, then smiled grimly. They don't understand us at all. What do you mean? Zhang asked. They think we are trying to win, Marcus said. They think this is about victory. It's not. It's about making sure they know they made a mistake. It's about making them hurt for what they did to Mars. Every ship we sacrifice takes something from them. Resources, time, confidence. We are not trying to defeat them. We are trying to make them bleed. Zhang nodded slowly. And it is working. Look at this transmission from their command ship. She pulled up another message. This one was from Admiral Krivar himself, requesting guidance from the Covenant Council. The message outlined the unexpected resistance, the mounting casualties, and asked if additional forces should be deployed. He is asking for reinforcements, Marcus said. He thought this would take 3 days. He thought we would surrender. Now he is asking for help. What does that tell us? Zhang asked. It tells us he is worried, Marcus replied. And if he is worried, we need to push harder. In space, the next wave of human vessels approached the Covenant fleet. This wave was different. Mixed in with the civilian craft were actual military vessels, heavily modified in the 3 days since the battle began. Engineers had worked around the clock, stripping equipment from damaged ships and installing it on functional ones. Some vessels now carried triple their normal weapons load. Others had been converted into flying bombs, their cargo holds filled with nuclear warheads. Lieutenant Sarah Chen piloted her fighter through the chaos. Her father was General Marcus Chen, leading the defense from the surface. She had not spoken to him since the battle began. She knew he would have ordered her to stay on Earth if he had known she had volunteered for combat duty. But Sarah had friends on Mars. She had visited the colony just 2 months before it was destroyed. She had walked those corridors, laughed with the people who lived there, and promised to return. Now she never could. Squadron 12, form up on me, Sarah transmitted to her wing. We are going for the big one. The big one was the Eternal Judgment, Admiral Krevar's flagship. It was larger than any human vessel ever built, bristling with weapons and shielded by technology humanity did not yet understand. Attacking it directly was suicide. Sarah did not care. All ships, this is Chen, she transmitted. On my mark, we go to full burn. We do not stop. We do not turn back. For everyone we lost on Mars, for every person who cannot fight, for everyone we love. Make them remember us. Her squadron responded with acknowledgments. 12 fighters against a capital ship. They would all die, but they would not die quietly. Sarah pushed her engines to maximum and dove toward the Eternal Judgment. The ship's point defense systems opened fire immediately, filling space with energy beams and projectiles. The fighter next to Sarah exploded. Then another. Her shields took hit after hit, failing within seconds. She kept accelerating. An alarm blared in her cockpit. Hull breach. Life support failing. Engine damage critical. She kept accelerating. The Eternal Judgment grew larger in her viewport, filling her entire vision. She could see the individual weapon emplacements now, tracking her approach, firing continuously. Sarah armed her missiles, set them to detonate on impact, and transmitted one final message. Dad, if you ever hear this, I am sorry I did not say goodbye. I love you. Tell Mom I love her too. Tell her I was not afraid, and tell the Covenant that humanity does not forgive. We do not forget, and we never stop fighting. She fired her missiles and followed them in, her damaged fighter trailing fire and atmosphere. The missiles struck first, exploding against the Eternal Judgment's shields. The shields flickered for just a moment. Sarah flew through the gap and crashed into the ship's hull at full speed. On the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, alarms sounded. Minor damage to the starboard armor, an officer reported. The human fighter breached the outer hull but did not penetrate to interior decks. Krevar barely heard the report. He was listening to the translated recording of the human pilot's final transmission. The message ended and silence filled the bridge. They do not forgive, Krevar repeated quietly. They do not forget. They never stop fighting. His second officer looked at him with concern. Admiral? Krevar turned away from the view screen. Prepare the fleet for orbital bombardment. We will target their military installations. If they will not surrender, we will destroy their ability to fight. Yes, Admiral. But even as he gave the order, Krevar wondered if destroying their military capabilities would be enough. He was beginning to suspect that as long as a single human remained alive, they would find a way to keep fighting. And that realization terrified him. The second week of the war began with fire falling from the sky. Admiral Krevar had made his decision. The humans would not surrender, and their suicidal attacks were costing the Covenant more ships than any campaign in recent memory. The time for demonstrations was over. Now came the hammer blow that would shatter human resistance completely. Begin orbital bombardment of military targets, Krevar ordered. Priority targets are command centers, missile installations, and spaceports. Avoid civilian population centers when possible, but do not risk Covenant ships to do so. The Eternal Judgment and its sister ships moved into position over North America, their weapons charged, drawing power from reactors that could power entire cities. When they fired, beams of coherent energy lanced down through the atmosphere, striking with the force of small nuclear weapons. NORAD headquarters in Colorado vanished in a flash of light. The naval station in Norfolk ceased to exist. Cape Canaveral became a crater. Installation after installation was erased from existence as the Covenant fleet methodically destroyed humanity's military infrastructure. In the underground command center beneath what had once been Beijing, General Marcus Chen watched the destruction with clenched fists. The screen showed real-time satellite footage of the bombardment. Each flash of light represented hundreds or thousands of lives ended, decades of military development destroyed, and strategic capabilities eliminated. Casualty estimates? He asked quietly. The young officer at the tactical station looked pale. Preliminary estimates suggest 3 million dead in the first hour, General. The number is rising, 3 million. The number was incomprehensible. Mars colony had been 8,000 people. This was nearly 400 times that loss. Their bombardment pattern suggests they will move to Europe next, then Asia, Admiral Zhang said. She stood beside Marcus, her expression carefully controlled. They are being systematic, thorough. They are trying to break us, Marcus said. They think if they kill enough people, destroy enough infrastructure, we will have no choice but to surrender. Will we? Zhang asked quietly. Marcus looked at her, then at the other officers in the command center. Some were crying silently. Others stared at the screens with expressions of shock and horror. But underneath the grief and fear, Marcus saw something else, rage. No, Marcus said. We will not surrender. Send the order to all remaining forces. Prepare for Operation Righteous Fury. General, that operation was classified as potential suicide, Zhang protested. The casualty projections were over 90%. I know, Marcus said. Send the order anyway, and make it volunteer only. Anyone who does not want to participate can refuse without penalty. Zhang hesitated, then nodded and relayed the order. Within an hour, the responses began coming in. Every unit contacted. Every ship still operational. Every pilot still capable of flying. Every soldier still able to fight, all volunteers. Not a single person refused. Admiral Krivar was reviewing damage assessments when his tactical officer interrupted him. Admiral, we are detecting unusual activity on Earth's surface. Massive energy signatures in multiple locations. They appear to be preparing to launch something. More suicide attacks? Krivar asked wearily. The humans had not stopped sending ships, even as their military was being systematically destroyed. The attacks had become less frequent as Earth's orbital capacity dwindled, but they had not stopped entirely. Unknown, Admiral. The energy signatures are different from their normal launch profiles. And there are far more of them than we have seen before. Hundreds of potential launch sites across the planet. Before Krivar could respond, the launches began. Missiles erupted from Earth's surface, but these were not aimed at the fleet in orbit. They were aimed at each other, crisscrossing the atmosphere in complex patterns. What are they doing? Krivar's second officer asked. The communications officer suddenly looked up from their station. Admiral, we are being hailed. The transmission is on all frequencies. They are demanding we listen. Play it, Krivar ordered. The view screen changed to show a human in military uniform. The translator identified him as General Marcus Chen, commander of the United Earth Defense Force. Admiral Krivar of the Galactic Covenant. Marcus began. You have come to our world. You have killed our people. You have destroyed our cities. You believe this will make us surrender. You are wrong. What you see happening now is the result of our species' greatest shame and our greatest strength. For decades, we built weapons capable of destroying our own world. We built them to threaten each other. Today, we use them for their true purpose, protecting our home. Krivar watched as the tactical display updated. The missiles were not attacking Earth. They were moving into orbit, thousands of them, each carrying a nuclear warhead. The humans had just launched a significant portion of their nuclear arsenal into space. You have taken our orbital superiority, Marcus continued. You have destroyed our military bases. You have killed millions of our people, but you have made one critical mistake. You have given us a reason to use every weapon we have, every resource, every life. We will not surrender. We will not negotiate. We will fight you with everything we have, and if that is not enough, we will make sure you pay such a high price that every other species in the galaxy will hear about it. Attack Earth, and you do not just start a war. You write your own death sentence. The transmission ended. Alarms immediately began sounding across the bridge. Admiral, the missiles are adjusting course, the tactical officer reported. They are targeting the fleet. All ships are being targeted simultaneously. Thousands of nuclear missiles converged on the Covenant fleet. The ship's point defense systems activated, destroying missile after missile. But there were too many. For every missile destroyed, 3 more closed in. Evasive maneuvers, Krivar ordered. All ships scatter formation. Destroy those missiles. The Eternal Judgment's weapons fired continuously, creating a web of energy beams that incinerated incoming missiles. Around the flagship, other Covenant ships did the same. Space lit up with thousands of nuclear detonations as warheads were destroyed before reaching their targets. But not all of them. The Covenant frigate Pride of Valor took a direct hit. Its shields collapsed under the nuclear blast and the ship's hull cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space along with half the crew. The ship went dark, drifting and powerless. 2 more ships were hit. The destroyer Swift Justice lost its main engines. The cruiser Infinite Wisdom suffered critical damage to its weapon systems. Pull back to high orbit, Krevar ordered. Put distance between us and those missiles. As the fleet withdrew, Krevar realized what had just happened. The humans had sacrificed their nuclear deterrent, the weapons they had built to keep each other in check, and turned them against the Covenant instead. They had stripped themselves of their ultimate defense against each other to attack an enemy from the stars. Admiral, we are receiving reports from the surface, the communications officer said. The humans are launching ground assaults on our landing parties. Landing parties? We have not sent landing parties yet, Krevar said, confused. No, Admiral, but we destroyed several military installations. Some of our disabled ships crashed near human cities. The humans are attacking the crash sites. Krevar pulled up the tactical data from one crash site. A Covenant corvette had been hit during the missile barrage and had made an emergency landing outside a city the humans called London. The ship's crew had survived and were waiting for rescue. They would not get it. Video feeds from the downed ship showed something Krevar had never seen before. Thousands of humans, most not even military personnel, were converging on the crash site. They came with civilian vehicles, improvised weapons, and sheer numbers. The Covenant crew fought back with superior technology and training, but the humans kept coming. They poured into the streets around the crash site, using buildings for cover. They set traps using civilian explosives. They emerged from underground tunnels that the Covenant sensors had not detected. They fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible for a species that was supposed to be beaten. The crew is requesting immediate evacuation, the communications officer reported. We cannot send shuttles into that, Krevar said, watching the chaos. The humans have brought anti-air weapons. Any shuttle would be destroyed before reaching the surface. Then what do we do, Admiral? Krevar had no answer. He watched as the humans overwhelmed the crash site through sheer determination and numbers. The Covenant crew fought well, but they were surrounded, outnumbered, and had nowhere to retreat. One by one, they fell. The crew has stopped transmitting, the communications officer said quietly. Krevar turned away from the screen. In his 40 cycles of service, he had conquered 17 worlds. He had faced resistance before. He had seen species fight desperately for survival, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting because they refused to lose. There was a difference, and that difference was costing the Covenant more with each passing day. Status of the fleet? Krevar asked. 4 ships destroyed, 7 damaged, 3 critically. We have lost approximately 42% of our original strength, Admiral. 42%. In 2 weeks. Against what the Covenant Council had classified as a primitive species. 3 weeks into the war, humanity prepared to do the impossible. Deep beneath the ruins of what had once been Geneva, in a bunker that had survived the orbital bombardment through a combination of luck and over-engineering, the greatest minds from across Earth worked around the clock. Scientists, engineers, physicists, military strategists. They had been given a task that seemed beyond human capability. Take the fragments of Covenant technology, recovered from crashed ships and destroyed fighters, and build a weapon that could change the course of the war. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stood before a holographic display showing the partially assembled device. It looked nothing like human technology. The power core was adapted from a Covenant frigate's reactor. The targeting system came from a destroyed fighter. The weapon itself was based on principles that humanity had only theorized about until 3 weeks ago. Will it work? General Marcus Chen asked. He had come to the facility personally, leaving the command center for the first time since the war began. Sarah did not turn from the display. Honestly, I have no idea. The physics involved are at least 50 years ahead of where we are. Maybe more. We have had 3 weeks to understand technology that the Covenant probably spent centuries developing. By all rights, this should not work at all. But, Marcus prompted. But we have had very motivated people working on it, Sarah said with a tired smile. And we have one advantage the Covenant does not expect. We are willing to try things that any reasonable engineer would consider insane. This device should require at least 5 years of testing before we would even think about deploying it. We do not have 5 years. We do not have 5 months. So we are going to build it, install it on a ship, and pray it does not destroy itself the moment we turn it on. Marcus looked at the device. If it works, what will it do? In theory, it will create a localized tear in spacetime. Everything within a certain radius will be caught in a dimensional collapse. Ships, debris, even light itself, it all gets pulled into a pocket dimension and crushed out of existence. In theory, Marcus repeated. In theory, Sarah confirmed. We have never actually tested it. We cannot test it. The moment we turn it on, it either works or it explodes. There is no middle ground. How big is the blast radius? If our calculations are correct, approximately 50 kilometers. Anything caught in that radius is gone, including the ship carrying the weapon. Marcus absorbed this information. So whoever fires this weapon will not survive. No, Sarah said quietly. They will not. And you have volunteers? Sarah finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her expression was determined. General, we have more volunteers than we have ships. When word got out about what we were building, thousands of people stepped forward. Military pilots,
Civilian ship captains,
engineers who wanted to crew the ship. We have had to turn people away. Everyone wants a chance to make a difference. Everyone wants a chance to make the Covenant pay for what they did. Marcus nodded slowly. He understood. He felt the same way. His daughter Sarah Chen had died in the first week of the war, her fighter crashing into the eternal judgment. Every day since, he had focused on nothing but making the Covenant regret coming to Earth. If he could have piloted the weapon ship himself, he would have. When will it be ready? He asked. 48 hours, Sarah replied. We are installing it on the Indomitable, a heavy cruiser that survived the first week of fighting. It is one of our best ships, and it has a crew that has already proven they can get through the Covenant defenses. Who is commanding? Commander Jessica Martinez. She lost her family when the Covenant bombed Denver. She volunteered immediately. Marcus made a note to meet with Commander Martinez before the mission. Anyone willing to sacrifice themselves deserved to be recognized. Keep working, Marcus said. We are running out of time. The Covenant is regrouping. When they attack again, we need to be ready. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Krevar was indeed regrouping, and he was receiving a message he had been dreading. The view screen showed 3 members of the Covenant Council. High Counselor Zexara spoke first, her voice carrying the weight of authority that had governed 100 worlds. Admiral Krevar, we have reviewed your reports with great concern. Your casualties are far beyond acceptable parameters. Yes, High Counselor, Krevar replied. The humans have proven to be extraordinarily resistant. They fight with a desperation we have never encountered. Desperation we expected, Counselor Brath interjected. His species, the Krill, were known for their military expertise. What we did not expect was competence. You report that the humans have successfully recovered and analyzed our technology. They have adapted their tactics. They have unified their fractured political systems. These are not the actions of a desperate, dying species. These are the actions of a species learning to fight us effectively. Krevar felt his scales ripple with discomfort. What are my orders, counselors? The 3 council members conferred briefly before High Counselor Zexara spoke again. You will finish the mission, Admiral. You will subjugate Earth. But we are sending reinforcements. The Warfleet retribution will arrive in 10 days. Combined with your remaining forces, you should have more than enough strength to overwhelm the humans. 10 days, Krevar repeated. Understood, High Counselor. However, I must advise that... Your advice has been noted, Admiral. Zexara interrupted. But the Council has made its decision. Earth will submit to Covenant authority. If the humans will not surrender peacefully, then they will be conquered by force. The galaxy must see that the Covenant cannot be defied. Make an example of them. The transmission ended. Krevar stood alone on the bridge, staring at the blue planet below. 10 days. He had to hold position for 10 days, maintaining the blockade and preventing the humans from recovering. Then reinforcements would arrive and they would crush Earth's resistance once and for all. But something about the situation troubled him. The humans had been quiet for the past few days. No major attacks. No desperate gambits. Just small raids and harassment strikes that did little damage but kept the Covenant fleet alert and wary. What are they planning? Krevar muttered to himself. His second officer approached. Admiral, perhaps they are finally accepting the inevitable. Perhaps they are preparing to surrender. Krevar's mandibles clicked in disagreement. No, they are planning something. The humans do not surrender. They adapt. They learn. They wait for the right moment. And then they strike. What should we do? Increase patrols. I want full sensor coverage of the entire planet. If the humans launch anything, I want to know about it immediately and maintain combat readiness. I have a feeling we have not seen the worst of what they can do. On Earth, Commander Jessica Martinez stood in the hangar bay, looking at the Indomitable. The ship had been through hell. Its hull was scarred with burn marks from energy weapons. Several sections had been patched with welded plates. But the engines worked, the weapons fired, and it could still fly. That was all she needed. "Commander, the weapon is installed and secured," Dr. Okonkwo reported. "We have run every diagnostic we can without actually activating it." "Everything looks functional." "Looks functional," Jessica repeated with a slight smile. "Not exactly confidence-inspiring," Sarah shrugged. "It is the best I can give you. This weapon has never been tested. We are working from theory and hope. If it activates properly, you will have one shot. Point it at the biggest target you can find and fire. The weapon should do the rest. And if it does not activate properly, then you will have a very large, very expensive piece of debris in your cargo bay. But at least you will still be alive to be disappointed." Jessica laughed despite herself. "I appreciate the honesty. How long until we launch?" 24 hours. The fleet is gathering. Every operational ship we have will participate in the attack. The goal is to break through the Covenant blockade, get you within range of their flagship, and give you a clear shot. "How many ships are we talking about?" 217, Sarah said. "It is everything we have left that can fly. Every military vessel still functional. Every civilian ship we could retrofit. Even some ships that probably should not be flying at all, but their crews refuse to let them be grounded. 217 ships against what remained of the Covenant fleet. The odds were still against them. But Jessica had stopped caring about odds 3 weeks ago, when the orbital bombardment had destroyed her home and killed everyone she loved. "We will get you through," Sarah promised. "The Covenant will not expect this. They think we are beaten. They think we are waiting for their reinforcements to arrive so we can formally surrender. They have no idea what we are about to do." Jessica nodded. "Thank you, Doctor, for everything. If this works, humanity will owe you more than we can ever repay." "If this works, we all owe each other," Sarah replied. "No one person can take credit for this. It took all of us. Every nation, every person, every sacrifice. We are all in this together now." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Ships were fueled. Weapons were loaded. Crews said goodbye to loved ones, knowing that most would not return. The plan was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. Every ship would attack the Covenant fleet simultaneously, creating chaos and confusion. Admiral Creever was reviewing supply reports when the alarms began screaming. "Admiral, massive launch detected from Earth," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple signatures. Hundreds of them. They are forming an attack formation." Creevar moved to the tactical display, his weariness forgotten in an instant. The display showed exactly what his officer had described. Every operational ship the humans still possessed was launching simultaneously, converging into a coordinated formation. "This is it," Creevar said quietly. "This is what they have been planning. Battle stations. All ships prepare for combat. Target prioritization to the largest vessels first." Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had fought the humans for 3 weeks now. They knew what to expect. Desperate attacks. Suicide runs. Wave after wave of ships that would die rather than retreat. But something about this attack felt different. "Admiral, analysis of the formation suggests they are protecting something," the tactical officer reported. "See here? The smaller vessels are forming a shell around several larger ships. They are guarding them." Creevar studied the pattern. The officer was correct. Most of the human fleet was arranged in a protective formation around perhaps a dozen larger vessels. "What are those ships?" "Scanning now, Admiral." They appear to be military cruisers, heavy class. Several show significant damage from previous engagements but are still functional. "Focus fire on those cruisers," Creevar ordered. "Whatever the humans are protecting, we need to destroy it." The Covenant fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space, targeting the cruisers at the center of the human formation. But before the beams could reach their targets, dozens of smaller human ships moved into the way. The beams struck mining vessels and transports instead, destroying them instantly. "They are using their own ships as shields," the tactical officer said in disbelief, "deliberately sacrificing smaller vessels to protect the larger ones." Krevar watched as the human formation pushed forward. Ships died by the dozens, but the cruisers continued advancing, protected by an ever-shrinking shell of sacrificial vessels. The humans were not trying to win the battle through superior firepower or tactics. They were simply willing to pay a higher price than the Covenant had ever imagined. All ships concentrate fire, Krevar ordered. Destroy those cruisers before they get into weapons range. The Covenant fleet intensified its barrage. The space between the two fleets became a storm of energy and explosions. Human ships burned and died, but they never stopped advancing. For every ship destroyed, another moved forward to take its place in the protective formation. Commander Jessica Martinez watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as ships around her exploded and died. The Freedom's Call took a direct hit and broke apart. The destroyer Unity lasted barely 10 seconds before its reactor overloaded. The civilian transport Hope's Dream, crewed by volunteers who had never been in combat before, flew directly into a Covenant beam to protect the Indomitable from fire. Status of the weapon? Jessica asked, forcing herself to focus on the mission instead of the death surrounding her. Weapon is charged and ready to fire, Commander, her weapons officer reported. But we need to get closer. Much closer. Current range is 300 kilometers. We need to be within 50. Then we keep going, Jessica said. All power to forward shields. Navigation. Plot the most direct course to their flagship. Commander, that course will take us through the heaviest concentration of enemy fire. The navigator protested. I know, Jessica replied. Do it anyway. The Indomitable surged forward, its engines burning at maximum. Around it, the remaining escort ships fought desperately to keep it protected. But the Covenant was focusing all their fire on the cruisers now, recognizing them as the primary threat. One by one, the cruisers fell. The Santiago took a hit that sheared off its entire port side. The Moscow's shields failed, and 3 seconds later the ship was torn apart. The Beijing managed to fire a final salvo before it was destroyed, taking a Covenant frigate with it. And still the Indomitable pressed forward. Admiral Krevar watched the tactical display with growing concern. The humans had lost over half their fleet, but 3 cruisers remained. And they were getting closer to the eternal judgment. What are they doing? Krevar muttered. Those ships cannot damage us. Why sacrifice so much to protect them? His second officer spoke up. Admiral, perhaps they carry important personnel? Leaders they hope to evacuate? No, Krevar said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. They are not evacuating. They are delivering something. Those ships are carrying weapons. New weapons. He turned to the tactical officer. Full scan of those cruisers. I want to know what they are carrying. The scan took precious seconds. When the results appeared, the tactical officer's scales paled. Admiral, one of the cruisers is carrying an unknown device in its cargo bay. The energy signature is similar to our own faster-than-light drives, but the configuration is different. Much more compact. And it is charging up. Krevar felt a chill run through his body. The humans had captured enough Covenant technology to build their own weapons. But they had only had 3 weeks. What could they have built in such a short time? Destroy that cruiser, Krevar ordered. Target it with everything we have. All ships, focus fire on the human cruiser with the anomalous energy signature. Destroy it now. Every Covenant ship in range turned its weapons toward the Indomitable. The space around the human cruiser became a storm of energy beams and projectiles. On the bridge of the Indomitable, alarms screamed. Shields at 15%, someone shouted. Multiple hull breaches. We are losing atmosphere on decks 3 through 7. How far to firing range? Jessica demanded. 100 kilometers, the weapons officer replied. We need to get closer. Then we keep going, Jessica said. The ship shuddered as another hit broke through the failing shields. The lights flickered. The gravity compensators struggled to maintain stability. Divert all remaining power to engines. Shut down everything else. Life support, weapons, everything. Put it all into the engines. Commander, if we do that, we will not have any defenses left, her executive officer protested. We do not need defenses, Jessica replied. We just need to get close enough to fire. After that, it will not matter. The Indomitable's shields collapsed entirely. The next Covenant beam punched straight through the ship's hull, cutting through 3 decks and killing dozens of crew members. Another hit disabled the port engine. The ship began to list, its trajectory becoming erratic, but it kept moving forward. 50 kilometers. Commander, the weapon is ready to fire. the weapons officer reported, targeting the Covenant flagship. But if we fire from this range, we will be caught in the dimensional collapse. I know, Jessica said calmly. She opened a channel to the remaining human ships. All vessels, this is Martinez. Break off and retreat. Get clear of the blast zone. We will take it from here. She did not wait for responses. She switched to a different channel, one that broadcast on all frequencies, including those the Covenant could monitor. Admiral Krevar of the Galactic Covenant, Jessica said. My name is Commander Jessica Martinez. 3 weeks ago, you came to our world. You destroyed Mars without warning. You killed 8,000 innocent people. You thought that would make us surrender. You were wrong. You thought orbital bombardment would break us. You were wrong. You thought we would give up when you killed millions. You were wrong about everything. She paused, looking at the tactical display. The Eternal Judgment was directly ahead, growing larger every second. We are not like other species you have conquered. Jessica continued. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not forgive. You wanted to make an example of Earth? Congratulations. You have succeeded, but not the example you intended. Today, Earth becomes the example of what happens when you underestimate humanity. Today, Earth becomes the example of what happens when you attack a species that refuses to lose. 30 kilometers. The Indomitable shuddered as another hit tore through its hull. The bridge filled with smoke. Fires burned in compartments throughout the ship. But the engine still functioned, still pushed the dying cruiser forward. For Mars, Jessica said quietly. For everyone we lost. For everyone we love. For Earth. She pressed the firing button. The weapon activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself began to tear. Reality bent and twisted around the Indomitable. The Covenant flagship, the Eternal Judgment, was caught in the gravitational anomaly. Alarms screamed across the Covenant ship as systems failed and the hull began to compress. Admiral Krevar had time for one final thought. He had spent 40 cycles conquering worlds for the Covenant. He had brought order to 17 species. He had never failed a mission, until now. The dimensional collapse accelerated. The Eternal Judgment crumpled like paper in a fist. Metal screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. And at the center of it all, the weapon continued to tear at reality itself, dragging everything nearby into the pocket dimension it had created. The Indomitable died first. Commander Jessica Martinez and her crew never felt anything. One moment they existed. The next, they simply did not. The Eternal Judgment followed seconds later, along with 12 Covenant support vessels that had been too close to escape.